Robertson finish it off. He's bowling at the number 11 and Geedy. In he goes, bowls to him. It's cleaned him up. There was something inevitable about that. Geedy's stumps are shattered. England win the match. And the series is level with 1 to play. Couldn't be set up better. And indeed, here we are for that decider, the final international cricket of this summer. It's a beautiful morning down here at the Oval. I can't guarantee how long it's going to last, but 1-1 all set up, and there's 2 crushing victories or defeats, whichever way to look at it, but neither match so far in the series going beyond 3 days. So goodness knows what we have in store today and onwards here at the Oval. So good morning to you. We've got the sun shining. It really is. It's a very promising start to the day. It's muggy, humid, just a bit of cloud around, but blue sky. I'm just 10 yards or so away from the England team, who are loosening up busily in front of us here. We're on the boundary edge, the South Africans over to our right hand side, and it really is absolutely perfectly set up. The crowd coming in, but I think what I should tell you first of all, which surprises us to be honest, is that there is a delayed start. There has been some rain around, let's be honest about that, but it feels dry underfoot. The sun is shining. It just feels absolutely perfect, but there is a delayed start. So 11:30 is when the first ball is going to be bowled, and the toss will take place at 11 o'clock. But just looking at various apps and things that we do, weather forecasts and stuff, I don't know whether to make head or tail of today. I know a man who does, though, and I'm going to put him on the line here. Simon King, good morning to you. Good luck with this one.
Yeah, you painted a very false sense of fine weather there.
No, I thought I might.
Yeah, oh dear. And yeah, I think apps, I'd be cautious of apps today, because in these situations, in these weather situations, as you probably know, as yourself, they can tend to not kind of paint the whole picture, really. It kind of gives you a risk of showers, but what you need to do on days like this is look at the radar imagery and what's happening right now across the region. So yeah, it's dry, it's sunny at the moment, but I can just see on the radar we've got some heavy showers to the southwest of London currently. They're now moving their way towards Guildford, and they are moving in a northeasterly direction. So you mentioned 11:30, and that's probably the time at which these heavy showers are going to arrive at the Oval.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah, and I have to say they will be intense. So like we saw at Lord's, you know, when it absolutely chucked it down, we could well see a similar situation. So when it does rain, there could be a lot of water to get rid of and clear up. You know, so yeah, that's the situation as we kind of stand today.
Is it clearer behind that? How does the afternoon look?
Yeah, so when this big batch of showers clears through, there will be a good dry spell, but there will be further isolated showers developing behind it. So there is the continued risk, I think, during the afternoon of catching another 1 or 2 of these showers. So we won't be out of the woods even as this first batch clears through. The promising news, I should say, for tomorrow, well, I say promising, fewer showers, but again the risk of showers tomorrow. It's the weekend that things quieten down, and it's looking dry actually for Saturday and Sunday, and then even into Monday as well. There'll be some sunny spells. It will turn much warmer actually into next week as well. Tropical air bringing some much higher temperatures towards the UK on Monday, but humid as well.
Lovely, Simon. You've been completely drowned out by the PA down here. I can't hear it. So thanks for that. We'll just keep an eye on today, and hope for the best. Thank you very much indeed. We've been positioned here right beside a speaker. So there we go. Some news being delivered over the PA. We're going to speak to Mark Wood in a minute, who's doing some loosening up, some bowling down there. But confirmation then that there is going to be this delayed start. And so the toss will be at 11. It's normally 10:30. And then the first ball hopefully will be bowled at 11:30. Judging from what Simon King was telling us there, that might be in jeopardy, which is such a shame, isn't it? I mean, we've had a wonderful summer. We shouldn't complain. Heaven knows we need the rain. So let's not get too carried away about the delayed start to a cricket match. But even so, it's just disappointing because everyone's here, everyone's ready to go. It just feels like they could easily be playing in half an hour's time. They're playing football and everything else, loosening up. The South Africans, they're kicking a football about. Surely they can play cricket. Anyway, that's our usual grumble. Mark Ramprakash is with us for this match. Lovely to see you, Mark, here as well. I don't know. Come on, you're a more up-to-date cricketer than I am. You could get out there and field at mid-off, couldn't you?
Well, very good morning, everybody. Only just more up to date than you.
Well,
It feels a very long time ago since I was lucky enough to come out at the Oval, and what a magnificent stadium it is. There is a little bit of grease on top, I suppose you'd call it like that, a bit of moisture, and I suppose with the heat on it may just come up slightly to the surface. But it makes it fascinating, doesn't it, to be a captain in this situation. You know there's rain coming. There's going to be a toss, and what do you do in these circumstances? Because traditionally, the Oval, good wicket, certainly Surrey, lots of runs this year at the Oval, been out to the pitch, looked at a reasonable pitch. I don't think it will be particularly quick, but we know both sides are fragile with their top order, their batting lineups. England, of course, have had great success, throwing the opposition in and basically just chasing whatever they get, and the pitch the pitches in England this summer not really deteriorating. So I guess you would say, although the sun is out, with rain showers around, it's very likely that the captains will win the toss and probably insert the opposition.
Yes, it feels like it. I mean, Dean Elgar got it wrong last week, didn't he? I mean, he picked a team and then had to do what he do despite the weather conditions, really. I doubt he'll make that mistake again. In fact, we've got a good glimpse of the South African team. It's just a batting place to fill, but they're only going to play one spinner this time.
Yes, well, then that clearly suggests that they won't be afraid to use this new ball in these humid conditions with overcast conditions perhaps later in the day. It's a formidable seam attack, Aggers, isn't it? They've got good speed, good variation. If Jansen comes back, they've got the left arm angle. And the England batting lineup will be under pressure straight away. And I think that what will lend sort of credibility to the captain thinking, right, if I can win the toss and bowl first, is that if you take a couple of wickets, immediately the batting team are under pressure. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world, And if there's a shower that comes along, that may break the batsman's concentration as well. So you're probably thinking, hedging your bets, have a bowl first.
Yeah, and both batting teams are vulnerable, aren't they? As we've seen in this series, I mean, these spectacular collapses, once you get down to number 8 or so, the lower order tail enders can get pretty quickly blown away.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just in England. I think the England team, it's around the world that we're seeing the sort of erosion, if you like, of the skill of being able to play the moving ball, and all the qualities and attributes that you need to be a good Test class top order batsman have sort of gone out of the game, probably to do with a lot of the scheduling and the short format, where people are encouraged to sort of take the attack to the bowlers, put the pressure back on the bowlers, Aggers. That's what they're saying. And they mean that by trying to score runs, as opposed to perhaps leaving and batting time and good concentration and getting the shine off the ball. So those sorts of things have gone out of the game. So with England, of course, Zach Crawley, 38 actually, up at Old Trafford.
Yeah, played well.
Looked okay. What did you think?
Well, I was talking to Ben Stokes about it yesterday, that actually I thought, for all the talk of Bazball and that stuff, actually at Old Trafford they played really well, because they didn't seem to be that sort of ridiculous pressure overload. And I talked to him about those early shots this summer, coming down the pitch and being caught at mid-off. Really? We talked about it, didn't we? And he said, look, I was trying to show the others that if I'm prepared to do it, then anyone can do it. So I think he accepted that was a bit of a statement at the start of all of this, because I thought at Old Trafford, I thought they played really well. I thought the pace was good. Zach Crawley could play that more patient innings, leaving a lot without feeling that he had to come and play loads of shots. And it was just a positive way of playing. Look who's here. Someone who's been bowled jolly fast out there, would he? I was rather glad I was standing here.
Yeah, you'd have smacked me. So this man definitely would have. Mr. Ramrakash.
I don't know, but look, you're looking good, aren't you?
I feel good. Head of schedule. So originally thought that be a build up to Pakistan, but I'm already off my full run. Whereas before the first operation, I was having my arm heavily strapped, and then I probably wasn't bowling off my full run until like 9 weeks after, which is a long time. Well, this has been 3 weeks, no strapping anything, straight back in, and made a big difference, so I'm really happy.
Raring to go. So you're on the plane, aren't you? I mean, soon.
Yeah. So we've got, I think it's less than a week now until we leave. So Just trying to ram it up. I've still got the red ball in my hand, which is the wrong colour, but needs must while you're here at the Oval.
Yeah. What's it like out there? I mean, I've been having a bit of a grumble. Ramps, of course, being more sensible about things. He said, "Oh no, it's a little bit greasy." I mean, this half-hour delay. I mean, is it? You were running in all right?
Yeah, it was fine. If anything, I was surprised the conditions were very swingy. I thought,
yes.
With it being obviously a damp morning,
humid,
and then humid and hot. Now the ball swung quite a bit there, which I was saying to John Lewis, the bowling coach. Obviously we've got experience, Jimmy and Brodie, so they'll work it out pretty quickly. But rather than maybe wobble seams all the time, actual normal conventional swing might be useful today with it on a day like this. I know we'll talk about. I think so. I think you look and you think grey clouds. That's the remit for it. It must swing if it's grey, but actually with it being humid and damp, these are actually great swinging conditions as well. So put them in England like to chase. So I think that's what they'll probably do.
It's your first experience of the England environment this year, isn't it? And on all the new reset and everything. How is it? I mean, you obviously know Ben very well.
I'll tell you what was a lovely touch. Was the family on the field for Harry Brook. That's the first time I've experienced that. Always it's just been a presentation from player to player or coach to player. So to have the family there was, I thought, a lovely touch, and they were obviously emotional, and you could see that they're as much on the journey for him as everybody else. So it's great that they could come on the field and sample up the atmosphere. Yeah.
And how about just generally? I mean, the way that the team operates, and in the dressing room, there's also the environment, if you like. I mean, have you noticed a change?
Yeah, it's calm, dead calm, relaxed. I couldn't believe how relaxed it was on a crunch game, trying to win the match, to win the series, and it just feels like everybody's dead clear on what they're going to do, how they want to play, and the environment in the dressing room is really relaxed, which I was really surprised about. Actually, there's been times where I've been part of a dressing room where probably myself I've been a bit too hyped up to try and it's a first morning, but everybody, I don't know if it's because I'm out of it, a step out, but when I've come back in it just seems dead relaxed, I would say.
Interesting. I mean, does it feel like it's a crunch, a decider, a winner take all, if you like, this game?
I don't think England will want to play for a draw, so I think it is a must-win game, because that's the way England want to play. They don't want to sit in the fence. They're all at it, all action. So I guess like any Test match, whoever starts well the first morning, it seems to me in national cricket in general in recent years, whichever team gets their nose in front, the other team find it very hard to claw back. We've probably seen it this summer with England being a bit more attacking and then dragging games back. But often the team that starts well in games often, bring it home towards the end. So crunch morning, really.
And last one, you've got to go do some more bowling, I guess. But Ben Stokes himself, have you noticed a change in him now that he is captain? I mean, in the dressing room, does he say a lot? Is he an authoritative figure? Or I mean, have you seen any difference?
I wouldn't say difference in the terms of his leadership. He's a natural leader anyway in the dressing room. But what I would probably say is that it's weird to say for a 30-odd-year-old, but he's just grown up so much. Like he's got a presence and an aura about him now, and he's just grown up as a bloke, and he's comfortable with himself, he's comfortable with his teammates. Even hearing him speak, I mean, if he could have wound the clock back 10 years, I would never have thought he would speak the way he does now.
Right, yeah.
So
really quite eloquent.
Yeah,
actually.
so he's thoughtful, and the way he delivers it and everything like that. So I think he's definitely grown up as a bloke, and he definitely has those natural leadership qualities anyway.
Well, you're joining us, I hope, today, aren't you?
I am.
Okay, the good news for you with this half-hour delayed start, Woody, you can go and do some more bowling.
Can't wait. As long as Ramps isn't in there, I'll be all right.
Off you go. We'll see you later. Yeah. There we go. Mark Wood, who's part of our team today, which is great. And he's back in the England fold because he has been selected for the T20 tournament in Pakistan. And, of course, the players leave almost immediately after this game for that. So he's getting himself fit and ready. It's been a frustrating summer for him. But it's interesting to get that little bit of insight, actually, isn't it? I mean, he knows Ben Stokes so well from Durham, of course. So actually, to make that remark about that sort of that growing up part.
Well, absolutely, and Ben has matured as a cricketer and as a person, unquestionably. I was lucky enough to be a coach on a Lions trip to Australia, where Ben Stokes actually got sent home.
Oh yes.
Now that seems a very long time ago. He's grown up incredibly. He's a world star, in all formats, and very much a talisman. And sometimes, of course, there was a lot of debate really about whether to make him captain, because we've had great all-rounders in the past have a go, Ian Botham and Andrew Flintoff. and it's proved really challenging with their workloads. I guess you would say Ben's done slightly less bowling, but that's probably because of a bad knee. Although, having said that, last week or whenever it was at Old Trafford, he played a pivotal performance with the ball as well as the bat in getting a wonderful 100. So, such an important guy. And I've been really impressed with the way he's fronted up to the media. He's been open and honest. He's been pretty natural, really, hasn't he? And he's got his points across.
The new accessory here by the ground staff, I see. I'm not sure what sort of a fork prodder that is. And they're going around. I mean, you're a golfer, Ramps. So I can imagine maybe a greenkeeper has got one of those locked away in his shed, and he brings it out maybe on a damp day to maybe just replace a little divot or two that might come up, or where the ball lands and spins back. A man of your skill on the green there, but they're sort of dibbing around here on the edge of the outfield, which is, I mean, that's quite committed, that, isn't it? Because we're down at long leg. I mean, this is Jack Leach territory, and yet they're making sure that every little bump and every little move and every little divot there is being sort of dibbed away. Have you seen that before?
Well, not particularly high tech, I must say.
No, it's not high tech.
I'm quite surprised. It looks like a small rake. They
can't do the whole field with that. They'll be here all day.
No, they would be. It's more like a small rake, which I use often when I go into the bunkers on a golf course. But I'm not sure that's going to make a huge amount of difference. I think the ground looks fantastic. I must say the outfield, given the summer that we've had, the outfield is absolutely pristine. We was a little bit concerned about some of the areas on the square, and perhaps that's why there is a slight delay. But such was the rain that the three strips that the teams use for practice have not been used this morning because they clearly have got wet. And it's the bits on the square where places like extra cover, square point, square leg, they fill. And those creases can get quite muddy as they're bare. They've had matches played on this summer, and those areas are always of interest when there's rain around for umpires and captains.
So the work goes on. There isn't much to do. One by one, the England players are leaving. Brendan McCullum, the coach, is wandering off there now, with his baseball mitt in one hand and a bat in the other. Some are still bowling and loosening up, including Mark Wood, of course. Jack Leach, I see bowling there as well. So we are getting there. As I said, there is a half-hour delay to proceedings. Kevin Peterson's out there in the middle. I can see it's nice to see him again. I haven't seen him for a little while. Arms folded in conversation with Stuart Broad. He always hangs around for the toss, Stuart. He likes to know exactly what's going on. So he's loitering and waiting for that, which will be happening in about 15 minutes at 11 o'clock, and then the first ball should be bowled, hopefully, fingers crossed, for the weather, of course. And there's a bit of cloud building up behind the pavilion. I can see it coming now, but hopefully 11:30 we're going to start. Now, as Mark Wood mentioned there, actually, Harry Brook was given his cap today, and it's really nice. His mum and dad were there as well to witness that and have a photograph taken and so on in front of the pavilion, which is a lovely gesture. I should mention too, actually, that Jimmy Anderson was given his 175th Test cap today. You don't literally get a cap every time, but you do with 100. I think 50 you get, don't you? You get 50, then 100, then 150, and anyway, he's got one with 175 embossed on it, which is great. So that all took place in front of us here. So Harry Brook making his Test debut, with Johnny Bairstow, of course, picking up that really freakish injury. Talking about golf, of course, he's about to play a tee shot and slipped over and he's fractured his leg. It's a real cruel end to what has been a fantastic year for Johnny Bairstow. So he's sitting it out. Harry Brook gets his chance. I spoke to him yesterday and he's very excited to finally get an opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a good summer, and thankfully I've got my chance this week, so hopefully I can show everybody what I'm made of.
Yeah. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? It's one person's misfortune give someone else a chance, and you'll know Johnny Bairstow very well, so it's kind of a mixed feeling about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's happened plenty of times in the past. Like I say, hopefully I can come in, do my part for the team, and try and get a win and win the series.
Yeah. Have you spoken to Johnny at all?
I saw him the other day, actually. His foot didn't look too good, so I just said hope he's well, and he's cracking on. So I think he's seeing the specialist this week at some point, so hopefully it all goes well.
And that is sport, isn't it? I mean, I say one door closes, another opens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not all plain sailing. You have ups and downs. Obviously, this is a massive down for him at the minute, and we all know he always bounces back really well from stuff like this. So I'm sure we'll see him in the new year, if not before, smashing it again.
And how about you smashing it? How are you going to play? I mean, you've been sitting watching the England team play this extraordinary summer. I mean, in some ways, it's frustrating, I guess, not to have played. But on the other hand, at least you've really got a feel for what's going on. Yeah,
absolutely. Like you say, it has been frustrating, but I've been able to go away and still play and keep my momentum going. If it had have been the bubbles a few years ago, then I probably would have struggled a bit more. But at least I've been able to go away and carry on batting and keep up my rhythm. But the way I'm going to play is just the usual way I've been playing this year. Go out, try to put pressure on the bowler, back my defence, try and leave well, and what will be will be.
Yeah. And does it make it easier knowing what the team environment is and knowing that what Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes and the way they want you to play?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way I play probably fits into that fairly well. I'm quite an aggressive batter, and like I said before, I try to put the pressure on the bowlers. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It can't work every time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And South Africa, there's a bit of pace out there. There's a few singing past your nose.
Yeah, it's all fun and games, isn't it? We'll wait to see what happens. But like I said, I'll be trying to score, and I won't just be out there to try and survive.
And you come from a big cricketing family, Harry. I mean, I just wonder how they're feeling about this, and they'll have known what your dream has been for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got plenty of people coming down. I've been pestering Wayne, the manager, for plenty of tickets, so there's going to be quite a few Yorkshire supporters in here, I'd have thought. So, I'm looking forward to it.
That was Jonathan Agnew talking to Harry Brook, who makes his debut today in this final test match of the summer. Now, last year, I think, he won the Cricket Writers' Club Young Player of the Year, which was held here at the Oval, and we got to meet his delightful grandmother, who was less excited, I'd say, about Harry Brook winning that award than meeting David Gower. That was really the standout moment. I've got Stefan Schemmelt with me, and Stefan, you've written a piece for the website, which you could go and find, the BBC Sport website and app, about Harry Brook. Tell me your findings.
I'm actually just thinking about something I didn't write about as I watch Harry Brook practicing his off-spin. Because one thing that Ben Stokes said in his press conference yesterday is that Brook's been in his ear about his off-breaks, telling the captain about how good his off-spin is. And Ben Stokes has had to tell him, look, don't worry about that, mate. You're in for your batting. But it just reminded me, actually, that I saw Harry Brook practicing his off-spin before the Old Trafford test as well, doing a lot of work with Jack Leach. And I think that says a lot, actually, about his commitment and his work rate, which is something that I found out about when I've spoken to people about him, to find out about Harry, to write this piece that's on the BBC Sport website. And his old coach at Sedbergh School, Martin Spate, is here today. Harry got a scholarship to go to Sedbergh when he was 14. He played his club cricket in Yorkshire for Burley, and then was selected to go to Sedbergh in Cumbria. And one of the things that Martin Spate does is hold net sessions at 6 o'clock every morning from the first Tuesday in the September term right the way through for the rest into the summer. And he said that Harry Brook was there every morning from when he arrived at Sedbergh, just working on his technique. And he said the first thing that I saw about him was how strong he was off his pads, that he played with a straight bat off his pads, and that when someone does that, when a young player does that, you know straight away that you're onto something. And Spate told one of his colleagues, Mark Shopland, if you're going to put a bet on someone to play for England, do it to this lad. And he did. £100 at 100 to 1, and would have got quite a nice payout earlier on this year when Harry Brook played in that first T20 international against the West Indies.
It's not bad, is it? Now, he's had a sort of rapid rise to fame, but it was mostly in the white ball cricket that we saw him. This year he's raised his first class average from 27 to 37. He's averaging over 100 in red ball cricket. But such is the strange vagaries of our season, Stefan, that he did pretty much all of that by the middle of May, then played a game that wasn't first class against the South African tourists, got 140 because of 12 players on each side, weren't there, or more. But he's not really faced much of a red ball. So we bring in this potential prodigy sort of 3 months really after he was in nick.
I agree with that to some extent. Because basically everything you've just said is true. But he's also switched formats very well, actually, this summer. And I think Brook is the coming man in all three formats for England. If you think at the moment, there's probably only Johnny Bairstow who is a multi-format batter for England these days. Since Ben Stokes retired from the one-day international team, Joe Root can't get into the T20 team, and Joss Butler has been dropped by the Test side. So there's only Bairstow across those 3 formats. And Brook has been a constant presence in squads in all 3. Certainly this summer, and he's been in white ball squads before this summer as well. Like you say, he hadn't played. He scored a lot of his runs at the start of the summer, then got called into that Lions game, got 140. That would have been another first class 100 if it hadn't been stripped of first class status. To me, he's just every inch the modern batter. That these young lads are used to switching formats without a great deal of sweat. He actually also seems like one of the first rising stars of the 100. Last year, Ben Stokes was his captain at Northern Superchargers, and one of the things, Ben Stokes only played 2 games for the Northern Superchargers, and one of the things he said was, Harry Brook's going to play for England. And lo and behold, here he is.
That's quite a nice thing to hear, isn't it, from the future England captain, I guess. I've got Vic Marks and Vernon Philander by my side. I'm going to start with you, Vic. Have you seen much of Harry Brook?
Only a little bit. I've seen most of his England career so far, and the odd snippet. I mean, the odd thing is that I remember at the start of the Test summer, a lot of sages, and I sort of was agreeing with him, that you've got to play Harry Brook now. You've got to play Harry Brook now because he was in such vintage form. Of course, they played Bairstow instead of Harry Brook, which in hindsight looks like quite a good idea. So all I'm pointing out is that this selection business is not as simple as it looks, although it's quite easy when you're sitting in a comfy chair and you don't have to bear responsibility. But they were all saying, you've got to play Brook now. But if you had played Brook, we wouldn't have had Bairstow and the great Renaissance.
I suppose
but he's obviously quite special.
Well, I guess they might have left out Pope. The other thing to look at is that the perennial problems at the top of the order that England have, Vernon, mean that, Harry Brook played his grade cricket opening the batting. Stefan informed me earlier.
His initial steps into the Yorkshire team were as an opener. He has been an opener all the way through his junior cricket, right up until very, very recently, actually. And even Alistair Cook is someone who's tipped Harry Brook as someone who could have solved England's problem at the top of the order if they decided to drop Zach Crawley.
So, there's a little bit of that in there, isn't there? That it doesn't. Bairstow will almost certainly come back into the side, provided he recovers from that broken leg, which I'm sure he will. And then it might be that you have Bairstow, Brook, and Pope, and then the pressure is on the 2 opening batters.
Yeah, I suppose the difficulty lies in taking a guy out of a position that he's really made his own and where he's really grown into having confidence. Batting for the Yorkshire team, and probably certainly batting 4-5 for England in this particular fixture. So being up against a new ball is a completely different ball game, and I think we've seen it throughout the summer. I've heard a lot of him. Chatting to Mark Butcher out there, he certainly rates him to be one of the greater talents around, obviously on the county circuit. So yeah, it's going to be good to see how he goes against a quality South African attack. You're only as good as when you take that step up into the international level. But certainly a lot of good talk around Harry Brook, and yeah, hopefully he takes his form. I'm a massive believer of form, and I think we were chatting about form this morning, with the South African camp and the makeup of their batting lineup, and I certainly feel a guy like Aiden Markram again, so the world of potential, but just in terms of form, he's so out of form at the moment. So of course, like Harry, everybody has alluded to, Harry Brook, he's been having a fantastic season, got a couple of hundreds behind his name, so he come into this fixture with a lot of form, with a lot of confidence, and yeah, hopefully he gets the start that he wants. But yeah, we'll have to see how this one plans out.
Sorry, Vic, you were...
Well, no, I'm just musing. If he gets runs here, obviously Bairstow's not going to be back probably until next year, calendar year. But if Brook can consolidate a position in that team, you've got to play him somewhere when Bairstow comes back. You can't leave out... I know it's not proper, but you can't leave out a Brook who's scoring runs and play a Lees at the top of the order who isn't scoring any runs, for example. Pakistan's not the worst place to open the batting. Well, at least in the old days, Pakistan was a great place to open the batting because the reverse swingers didn't come into action. And actually, people were queuing up to bat at the top of the order against Pakistan because that meant that they got their runs before the Azim and Waqar started making the thing go round corners at about 90 miles an hour. So there is scope to consider. Brook will obviously go to Pakistan, you would think, and once you get there, it's a new season, that's the time perhaps to make a change at the top of the order, try something different, whether that might involve Brook. Well, it probably wouldn't, because he'd be in Bairstow's slot, but that was the time to change, I think.
Well, the other interesting part, just going off a slight tangent, is that the other batter called into the squad was Ben Duckett, who has opened the batting, who has opened the bat in the subcontinent as well. So I wonder if he might become a slight contender if they do make a change for Pakistan. I'm not certain that they will. There was so much chat about Harry Brook in the pressers yesterday. Dean Elgar was asked about him, Ben Stokes obviously. There was lots of in the interview that we've just heard, Brook was asked about the point that you made about switching formats. He says, look, it's just hitting a ball, isn't it? And then Dean Elgar as well, the South Africa captain, said, well, he was asked, you got a good look at him in that game at Canterbury when he made 140. Dean Elgar said, yes, but this is Test cricket. This is the big league now.
It was also a very different bowling attack, because Nortje wasn't playing, Ngidi wasn't playing, Rabada wasn't playing. I think Marco Jansen was. Now,
I don't think it's so much that. I think it's the scrutiny. It is Test. Stefan's right. It's Test cricket, and the bowling might be better, but it's the constant scrutiny. Every dismissal is torn apart by us up here and the people behind the television screens. It's written about. The scrutiny is the biggest change, rather than the quality of the bowling when you step up, I think.
I think a key point you're making there, when he's alluding to, hitting the next ball, I think that speaks volumes, because it just says to you as a person that, this guy's got clarity as, what he's going to go do out there. I think a lot of times, making a test debut, stepping up to the big occasion, you can get lost in the media build-up. You can get lost in a lot of media chat between captains. But I think the key thing for me, especially when you do make it step up, is to almost put those things aside, and like you said, focus on the next ball, because that's all you do have control of. Of course, playing Test cricket, yes, you're going to be up against guys that's going to be bowling 90 mile plus. That's a given. But I think if you have that sort of clear mindset of, it's up to the next ball, I think you're probably halfway there already.
And that's the thing that a lot of people have said about Brook, actually. He has got a very clear thought process about how he goes about his batting. He's very clear-headed. Ben Stokes put it another way. He said he's a bit dumb. Which I think was actually Ben Stokes was trying to say he doesn't overthink things.
Well, Jeremy Coney once said something very illuminating about a player whom I shall not name, but I asked him about him, and he said, well, Dan, he's not a man overly burdened by the heavy weight of intellect, and as a result, he has a tremendous clarity of thought, if you can call it that. And actually, there's a lot to be said for that. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about his family, because he's steeped in cricket, Harry Brook. He's got a big cricketing family.
Yeah, I'll make it quick, because I just see Ben Stokes making his way out for the toss. But it was his granddad, who I think was a stalwart of Burley Cricket Club. Tony was his granddad, Pauline his grandma. They had 3 sons. They all played cricket. And then obviously Harry was the first grandchild as well. Tony since passed away a little while ago. There's a bench in his honour there at Burley. But Harry still takes his washing back to Pauline, his grandma, and her garden overlooks Burley Cricket Club. And on the washing line, you will always see a Harry shirt. You'll know where he's been playing because of the shirt that's hanging on Pauline.
The PSL shirt.
Exactly. Yeah, so it might be Yorkshire or Superchargers or, like say, Lahore from the PSL. And pretty soon Pauline's going to have an England Test shirt to wash as well.
Well, 5 of them, I would imagine.
Exactly.
With a bit of luck.
Might be more than that.
Yes, I don't know. You must wear a different shirt every day, didn't you?
Yeah, you get a fair amount.
No? Vic shaking his
maybe
head.
not in your day, Vic.
Not in the 70s, no.
Yeah, I remember we normally get our kit allocation before tour or test tour. Normally have about 7 shirts, 5 pants.
More shirts and pants. Interesting. Don't know what that tells us. Are we heading out for the toss? I think we should head out for the toss. It's imminent. It's due in about a minute or so. Aggers is out there.
Yeah, indeed. The captains are about 20 yards away from me. I suppose Sean Pollock's officiating today. The match referee, Ranjan Madagala, our old friend from Sri Lanka, is also here. So it's a half-hour delay. I don't know what they've done in that half hour, to be honest. There's been various parts of machinery going up and down, trundling about, doing things. But anyway, the fact is that hopefully we will start at 11:30. I'm just looking behind me, which is where the weather's coming from. There's a bit of blue sky there, but obviously at ground level I can't see much beyond the Mickey Stewart Pavilion. So there are showers around, and they're going to be heavy. So it might be rather a frustrating day today. I would imagine that both captains are going to look to bowl first today. It's obviously rain around, there's cloud cover, humid, and also how much it disrupts a batsman's concentration as well. So Dean Elgar and Ben Stokes are both having a very friendly chat there. It's funny, these teams both respect each other, Mark, don't they? I mean, it is a crucial game. South Africa top of the table and everything else. England trying. I mean, crikey, if they win this series after where they started this summer from, I mean, it would cap an extraordinary turnaround, really. And yet it all seems very friendly and respectful.
Absolutely. I mean, Dean Elgar spoke about this being their World Cup final. That's how big a game it is. They've been on an excellent run, South Africa, and to come over and play as well as they did at Lord's, you know, they were running things, and it was a pretty one-sided contest. England have fought back brilliantly.
Let's join Sean Pollock then. Here comes the toss.
Stokes. We've got Oscar as well. Oscar, who's your favourite player?
Ben Stokes.
Ben Stokes, okay. That was primed, perfectly primed. Ben, you got the coin, give it a flick.
There we go.
Heads is the call, and it comes up at tail. Ben Stokes has won the toss. You've decided to bowl first, Ben?
Yeah, we're going to have a bowl, mate.
Okay.
No surprise there. So England are going to bowl first. We'll just wait for confirmation of the South African team, which will come in a second. Good toss for England to win, I reckon.
Yeah, it is. I think it's given. We spoke about a little bit of moisture in the pitch. Overheads, as we look out to the west, there's a few clouds. Dark clouds over there, and you can get ahead of the game. You can, if there is a short passage, if you take a couple of wickets, you immediately, the batting team are back foot. If you don't, it's not the worst thing, because there'll be interruptions probably throughout the day, and that could also break the batsman's concentration. So yeah, the Dean Elgar's look on his face said it all. He was disappointed to lose the toss.
Just confirmation that South Africa have made that second change. Aidan Markram has been dropped, and Kazondo is coming and plays second test, although he didn't do anything in the first. He was a concussion replacement. Actually didn't pick up a bat, but anyway, he will be batting at 5. And Marco Jansen, the tall left-arm quick bowler, confirmed to bat at number 8. So that's the South African side. But know that England have Lees, Crawley, Pope, Root, Brook making his debut. So it's nice for him actually to get out in the field and just get a bit of a feel for things. Stokes, Folkes, Robinson, Broad, Leach and Anderson is how England will line up, and I'll talk to Ben Stokes in a second, who's finished with that particular interview, and I'll give him a bit of a wave. And here we go. Well, Ben, you have, and that feels like a good toss to win.
Well, I hope so. I think the weather that we've had around the wickets, possibly been under cover for a few days. But as it is here, you always seem to get a little bit of movement on day one. So hopefully we can go out and utilise that.
Yeah. Dean Elgar's described this as being like a World Cup final for South Africa. Does it feel like that for you too?
Yeah, I think it's great for the series that we end up in the last game of the summer with all to play for. We've obviously got a great record against South Africa when it comes to series. So look, we know that we're going to have South Africa coming out fighting hard, but we're going to be doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And a word about Harry Brook making his debut today. It's lovely to see his family there, by the way, for the cap presentation.
Yeah, it's fantastic for him. Obviously, the opportunity's been presented to him in pretty strange circumstances, but things like that can happen. He's got thousands of runs this summer to come into this game with. Seriously confident young man with amazing ability, and I see him coming in and trying to influence the game like Johnny has all summer for us.
Fingers crossed for weather, Ben. Nice to see you. Good luck. There we go. England's skipper with a big smile. I must say that's a big smile. I mean, he gives you a good smile at the best of times, as Ben Stokes, but that is a big toss, I think.
Well, the captains were talking for a few minutes beforehand, and clearly the decision had arisen in terms of they both knew exactly what they would do, and Elgar in particular, he was very disappointed. And of course, he's South Africa's opening batsman.
Yeah. And here he comes. He's got a bit of a wry look on his face, if I'm honest, as South African skipper. You wanted to win that toss, Dean?
Yeah, I think everything's staying ball first. With our team balance as well, we've
would have most probably chosen that. But in saying that, it might be a little bit slower up front, and we might be able to get a few away. It's going to be hard work, but it's a challenge nonetheless.
I love the way you always look for positives, Dean. That's good. You've described this as like a World Cup final. I mean, really, is that big a game for you?
Well, it's for me. I don't have the opportunity to play the World Cup final, so this is going to have to be the next best thing for me. It's a big series. It's a big game for both teams. We're in a very fortunate position with the World Test Championship where we are. We know a good result here in our favour, and we're getting closer to that position. It's a big game for us. We've got to start bloody well.
Yeah, and you've got to bat well. That change in the middle order, Zondo for Markram. What was that? So it should be a form thing?
Purely based on form. Aiden's hasn't quite delivered over the last few months. He knows that, and we've tried very hard to keep him in the mix. He's still a very strong character within our squad, very well liked within our squad. But we need runs in that middle order. It's vitally important here in the UK to get off to a good start with some runs on the board, especially batting first, and being able to give our bowlers the luxury of trying to take those 20 wickets.
You've been spoilt by the weather up to now, Dean. I can't guarantee today, but not a great day for an opening batsman. Good luck, and thanks for talking to us.
It's a great day for opening batter.
He's always very positive, Dean. He's always absolutely gives that positive message. A great day for opening batsman. He's not fooling me.
Well, I think it must be, again, I mean, both captains have spoken so well there, haven't they, on the morning of the game, and they bill it as a World Cup final, and yet they are mature enough, relaxed enough to come out and speak well in front of the media. It must be great fun, you'd think, playing under both of those guys. They're two top leaders, two excellent cricketers, very different cricketers, but nonetheless, I mean, Dean Elgar is going to have to call upon all his nuggety grit as a top order left-hander to combat what we think will be some swing and some seam, not necessarily a particularly quick pitch, and he did mention that. He felt that it may be a bit slower on day one, but there will be probably some lateral movement.
Well, I mentioned as it came out, it's fun out here at the Toss, isn't it? Has it got a bit of a buzz back for you just to be out here and you get the sense of a big test match about to start?
I've absolutely loved it. There's plenty of people out here, I must say, what with commentary teams, media teams, and of course players, coaches. Great fun to see them warm up, and the tension's building.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. Very privileged to be doing this. So, anyway, where are we? We're 11:05, so the first ball should be bowled at 12:30, but the cloud is building up, and it is so behind the groundsman's shed. Well, it's not really a shed. It's like a garage under there, under the Bedser stand, where he keeps all this equipment, much of which he's seen actually over the last hour today. He's unveiled virtually everything, I think, out of there this morning, but there is some quite heavy cloud coming up from there. That particular batch actually could pass harmlessly by, and I've got a bit of Dean Elgar positivity about me there. That could just go behind Archbishop Tennyson's school that I could just see to my left, that famous old building just on the outside of the ground. So it's fingers crossed, but we know from the forecast that there will be some rain today. I don't think there's any avoiding that. We've already used up half an hour of the time that can be added on, so there is another half hour that could be added for those who are here and want to see some live cricket. But let's hope we get underway. The sun's shining at the moment. Fingers crossed that we're underway in 22 minutes' time. It's time for me to head up to the commentary box where Dan Norcross is already in position. Dan.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, just a very quick... I'd like to get my gripes out of the way first, right? But it's September.
We start at 11:30, mind.
Yeah.
It's only 25 minutes away.
Well, it's actually going to be my gripe. The rest of this test match is due to start at 11 o'clock. The county championship starts at 10:30 in September for very good reason, because the way the Earth moves around the sun is rather fixed. So any idea that we're going to get any play after 7 o'clock is for the birds, frankly, because bad light is going to set in, and it was always going to set in because of the laws of physics. So that really annoys me. The second thing that's slightly irksome, it seems to me, I know everyone's on a positivity drive, including Dean Elgar and Jonathan Agnew, who's rather fantastically thinking that this gigantic grey cloud is going to miss us, despite the fact that it's due to drop a load of rain on us in 3 minutes, is how dangerous can it really have been out there, Vernon, when all the players were warming up? Strikes me that if it's actually dangerous, that no one's going to go out there. And
yeah, it certainly amused me. I think we've watched probably the brightest the sun will shine today for the last sort of half an hour, and we had to postpone the toss, delay start, and by the time play is meant to be starting, I think we're probably going to be witnessing a couple of showers. So I don't think, I've been a massive fan over the years. Unless you've got hard, sunshine coming belting down on the outfield, and you've got wind to dry up the surface. I don't think you can have a massive change in a half an hour space, and I certainly don't think conditions should have changed that much in the last sort of 20 minutes to half an hour anyway. So I certainly feel it's probably half an hour lost. We could have probably had probably half an hour play, but yeah, let's hope this massive cloud, according to Agus, will miss us. When I look to the right, there's absolutely no chance that big cloud will be missing us. I mean, it just looked like a massive pile of clouds moving in. So hopefully they don't have any rain in them.
Well, or from a South African perspective, maybe hopefully they do and delay that start until we do get some sunshine, because we've got quite the change in personnel here. 4 changes from the team that lost by an innings last time out at Old Trafford. I'll try and go through them. Markram, Rassie van der Dusen, he's injured, so that's an enforced change. Ngidi and Harmer out. Rickleton, Zondo, Janssen back, and Vian Mulder in. So, do you think, Harmer, I would have imagined, Victor, speaking as an off-spinner, he might have been earmarked, might he, for the Oval. The Oval has got a reasonable reputation for spinning late on in the season, but the way it went at Old Trafford, they've decided sort of it's bits and pieces, isn't it? They want a little bit more batting with Mulder. They want Janssen back because they missed his swing in these conditions.
Yeah, you got the feeling when we went to Old Trafford that actually he was earmarked for Old Trafford, Harmer. And they stuck to the long-term plan rather than playing the conditions right in front of them. And by and large, that's what you have to do. I think you may have a strategy of possibilities, but when you actually get to the ground on the morning of the match, you've got to play those conditions rather than stick rigidly to a long-term strategy. And I don't think that helped South Africa. Who knows what would have happened if Elgar won the toss and bowled first at Old Trafford? We'll never know. England might have won anyway, but I think it would have been a tighter game.
It was tough batting conditions that first day, wasn't it?
So traditionally, you're right, Oval, you can get some dry pitches late in the season. We've seen Graham Swan, we've seen Tuffers get stacks of wickets at the Oval in the years gone by. But
do you enjoy bowling here?
Not especially, but you used to get bounce here. Actually, you did used to get the ball to bounce, and it would sometimes turn a little bit. But it has been a very good cricket pitch. We've seen some massive scores here. Hashim Amle got the triple century here. Devon Malcolm all those years ago, not 9 for it out of nowhere.
It's a very curious
stuff
square.
Happens here.
It's a very curious square because on the right-hand side of the square, the pitches tend to be run gluts. Surrey played a game here last year, scored 720 in reply to Glamorgan's 670. It was thrilling. I think 15 wickets fell on the match.
It should have been fined 15 points, but anyway, go on.
And then to the left as we look at it, this is the angle from the commentary box looking out towards the pavilion.
It's spicier.
Further towards the gasometer side, they are a bit more spicy.
So what happens when we're playing
taking a lot of wickets
precisely in the middle, which we are now?
Precisely in the middle.
This is the test pitch, isn't it?
It's not, I seem to recall it was the test pitches of yore have been a couple further over to the left. This is a little bit further over to the right than I'm used to for a test pitch, but it is pretty much the middle, and we always get results, don't we?
We always get results everywhere. South Africa play. I don't know, where's Andy gone? He's gone.
Andy's
but
gone,
we were up to 43 matches for South Africa, I think,
without a draw.
Mm.
We need an awful lot of rain to get a draw nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's also the intensity which the guys are playing at these days. I think back in the past, guys were quite willing to let the ball go and sort of get yourself in, betting at maybe 2.5 to 2.8 runs per over. But in the modern day, we've seen a massive swing around. The average probably scoring rate in the modern day is probably hovering around the 3.5s, which is a massive way up. And also from a bowling perspective, I think. And I've been chatting a little bit to the South African bowlers and just tapping into the mindset. So where a big part of my way of going about bowling was to be patient outside at off stump, to them it's clear these days, they want to be hitting off stump, so the mindset has changed, and probably why we do see a lot more test matches, not going the full quota of 5 days. So like I said, the intensity is definitely up, and then also it is a mindset change. It's massive, and that's a massive stat. 43 matches that not one.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So,
but getting back to that bowling thing, it strikes me that Jimmy, who is about your age anyway, but he kind of bowls in the way you describe. He doesn't bowl wide of off stump, but he he likes bowling maidens, and he likes tormenting the batsmen and making them wonder, hang on a minute, where am I going to get my next run? And put pressure on them like that, as well as getting the odd one to zip in or do something. So he kind of bowls like you used to bowl. I would think that's fair.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, there's no hiding when it comes to Test cricket. I think you still want to be doing the basics right, and the basics in Test match cricket is, yes, although you want to challenge batsman's technique, but you also want to be patient. You don't want to be leaking runs, and I think that's something that Jimmy has done well for a long period of time. Is when you suffocate batsmen, ultimately batsmen want to score runs. They want to feel bat on ball, and I think the big ammo that he obviously has in his armory is to be patient, but then also when the moment is right, to go for that kill, and that's something that he's been doing wonderfully well over his career, is having a massive in-swinger. So you'll set the batsman up, by being patient, by asking the batsman to leave on a good length, and then obviously he's got the one to really strike. So
batsmen I reckon to be less patient now, but many years ago I remember talking to Martin Crowe, who was in his time one of the great players, about bowlers he hated basically, and he didn't mind the bloke who could bowl him without unplayable delivery. What he didn't like was the bloke who he thought, how am I going to score off this man?
Tom Carr type sort of.
Well, yeah, it's a bit later than that. It would have been a sort of McGrath type in that era, or maybe Hadley with his own team. He was more concerned about, where will I get a run against this boy, rather than he might bowl me an unplayable delivery. He'd rather have that if he had a chance to score runs, and that's one of the great players thought like that.
You mentioned that. I think a great that played with me when I started out, Callis. He was exactly the same. He said, you can bowl 5 unplayable deliveries, but if he's going to give me something to score, I'd rather face him rather than a guy that for the next 5 overs he's going to suffocate you, and he's got the skill level to also get you out. And I think that's where Test cricket for me is still the greatest challenge to and the greatest game. I mean, we can. It is the ultimate pinnacle of the game of cricket, and to be able to do it over a period of time. That makes it even more fascinating. So, but it's going to be good to see. The clouds have moved in.
The clouds have moved in, and the ground staff, and they're nothing if not cautious here at the Oval. Lee Fortis and his team have made sure that there is a cover on the strip. So they've rolled out a kind of green tarpaulin in preparation for other covers to come on. It's not actually yet raining. So I think they're just anticipating there may be a little flurry. It's going to be one of those days we're going to get little showers flying through. A very irritating sort of day in some ways, but it's very difficult.
There's a band out there too.
There's a band, but they are protected with their bearskin hats on.
Well, I tell you what happens to them when it gets heavy rain?
Well, bears must have waterproof hair, surely.
We'll soon find out.
They're out in all weathers, bears.
As bowlers, this is the most pleasing sight, I can tell you.
Yes, you're relative. You're licking your lips.
As far as bowlers, you say, you know what? We can get out here for the next 15 minutes, but you're going to have your feet up pretty soon again. I'm not just sure about you, Vic. Wet ball.
Now, you were talking about patience, and I think that bowlers are one thing, but captains is another. And watching Ben Stokes' captaincy, we don't have Andy here. If we did, I'd ask him to look out if Anderson's been bowling any fuller. I suspect actually not, even though occasionally the odd spell he's got a little bit fuller. But for most part, it's been the captaincy of Stokes that intrigues me, because he's like fidgeting, changing all the time. If 3 balls go by and the same thing happens in those 3 balls, something has to change. Now, I'm not criticising it. It's been very instructive to watch, but it's when he's got ball in hand, things particularly do change. There's no patience with one particular method. And Stuart Broad's been drawn into some different plans, whereas Anderson, Robinson and Potts, when he was playing, they tended to bowl what they bowled, didn't they? They tended to look recognisably like the bowlers they were. But Stokes and Broad appear to be the ones doing things a bit more flexibly.
Maybe. I mean, Anderson's got 664 Test wickets. He's not going to change radically.
No.
And also on that point, I mean, Stokes has been very proactive, whether it's batting or bowling. And in the first innings in particular, in the last match, he was very attacking. Actually, in the second innings, he was cagier. He allowed Anderson to bowl with no more than 2 or 3 men round the bat, in the knowledge that it wasn't doing quite so much, and he was going to apply pressure in 2 different ways. 1, they might get the edge. 2, they might struggle to score a run. So I thought in the last match, Stokes was not sort of gung-ho attack. We are in trouble, therefore we must attack. And I thought that was good captaincy, because there are 2 ways to torment batsmen. One is to, have the cordon and get to the edges. The other is to frustrate them. So as we were talking earlier about, how the hell am I going to score a run against this bloke?
I think also the method that Ben Stokes is obviously applying to his captaincy is he wants to be a lot more proactive rather than reactive. And I think a lot of times in the past you'd have seen captains reacting on a session that has gone by. I think he's the type of guy that he wants to be in front of the game the entire game. So he's not going to settle in for 6 overs of maidens. He's going to want to set in kill. After over 3, he's going to walk up to Jimmy and say, hey, how are we getting this bloke out? And fair enough to him, it's worked for him. So yeah, he's your proactive kind of captain rather than the reactive one.
There's also one other feature of this summer, I think, which you can see in Stokes' captaincy, and it's informed by what all the bowlers have been saying and saying to us, which is that these balls are uniquely rubbish after 40 overs. And they behave in a very predictable way. That first 40 overs at anti-Crompton numbers, it's still as effective as last year's Dukes. After 40 overs, its effectiveness falls off a cliff. So managing those 40 overs between the 40th and the 80th has been a challenge for Stokes, and he's gone about it in some pretty inventive ways. It seems to me it's actually, he thinks, forced on him by the actual reality of what this ball's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the grumpy about Stuart Broad going on and on about these
coming
balls.
On. Sorry, by the way, I just need to say, and further tarpaulin coming on.
Which was a feature of the last Test match. Well, hang on a minute. How many runs did South Africa get in the last Test match? About 200 both innings.
Yeah, but they didn't.
What happened if the balls had been hard and shiny and swinging for 80 overs as opposed to 40? You wouldn't have played any spinners. So there is an art to having to bowl with a ball from 40 onwards.
Did South Africa miss a trick there, though? I mean, because they had a partnership going. Who was it? It was Rassie van der Dusen who'd got the busted finger. And who else was batting at the same time? I can't remember. Peterson, that's right, Peterson. And they were in and they were settled. Now, van der Dusen was struggling to be attacking because you could see the pain every time he played a shot. But Peterson didn't put the fight back to England. He just seemed happy to survive those 30 overs until a new ball became available. And once it was available, England just bulldozed through.
Well, and Jack Leach got 20 overs, didn't get a wicket for about 20 odd runs. So that when the new ball came round, South Africa was still a long way behind the game. I think that's what I meant about Stokes being a bit more cagey in that second innings.
I think South Africa was obviously a long way behind in the game, so for them it was probably trying to bet time, so I don't think the runs would have been that much of an issue. To them it was more about, betting a long period of time, and then in doing so, you get ahead of England. But of course we all know how important that second new ball is. I think also I have spoken to a couple of the guys within the South African setup. The problem is, when you lose a couple of quick wickets, you're on the back foot, aren't you? And I think that is a place where Johnny Bairstow is so vital for England, because even though England have lost wickets up front, they've identified once the ball gets to 35 overs old, they can counter. And I think he's been phenomenal throughout the summer as Johnny Bairstow, because he can really change the momentum of the innings and really, it's almost like a counter punch. And I think, someone that's done well for South Africa in years gone by is a guy called A.B. de Villiers. When the team has lost 3 quick wickets, you'd always see him try and counter punch. And I think that is something, that both these teams would have identified with the ball in particular. I think, the ball, we've all, been,
when it stops
identified, when the ball gets to 35 overs old, the ball become a little bit placid, and that's the time that you really can put the fight to the opposition. So I think England has done it well, but for South Africa there's obviously that concern of not having had enough runs, not having the confidence or the platform to really give the counter punch. So they're really depending on their bowlers.
Now then, exactly as we predicted and expected, the start has been delayed, and it's genuine. There's actual rain. We can see the huddled masses of spectators away to our right on the Archbishop Tennyson School side. Somewhat shuffling undercover, getting umbrellas out, putting on their waterproofs. There's a fair bit of covered space at the Oval. It's quite a cramped walkway, but there's plenty of places to go and hide if you need to.
Well, you know where they all are.
I know exactly where they are.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're local, yeah? And I mean, I took a little walk from the hotel, just a couple of meters or a couple of yards away from the ground, and there's a couple of pubs operating.
There are some
quite
good
early,
ones.
And
yes,
they seem to be packed. They seem to be packed.
They're very good, Randy. I mean, I can't obviously name any of them, but yes, there's a few. There's one very, very close to the ground. There's one through the estate away to our right. It's a lovely garden. There's a few, and they get cracking early and they finish late for Oval Test time. Now the covers are being brought out, tarpaulins being brought out. I haven't yet to see a wheelie cover, so to speak. It's just tarpaulins at the moment. I'm always slightly confused by the tarpaulins because they glisten with all the water that's been on them, and then they're dragged onto the square so that they can transfer that moisture onto the ground.
I think we are being pretty optimistic right now. Looking to the right, it looks like the end of the world moving in here.
There is a bit of apocalypse, isn't there? There's a hint of apocalypse away to the right. We might have to have an early lunch at this rate. Which is very frustrating because away to our left, where the weather is going, which is north, really, the weather is coming from southwest really to northeast. So away to our left is north, away to our right is south, behind Archbishop Tennyson School. It is very mucky and murky there. Away to the left, there's some blue sky, but the lights are on. There's some high clouds, but they're drifting away to be replaced by this huge, malevolent mass of destruction, which is making its way across. Andy Zaltzman is with us, I'm delighted to say. First time today?
Yes.
Hello.
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 Hello. Is that it?
That is, well, not really. I thought you were about to ask me a question.
Well, I was about to ask you, yes. I was going to ask you a question about Anderson's lengths.
Right.
Because we were just speculating a little bit as to whether or not England have been more attacking. And then we were talking about Jimmy Anderson, being Jimmy Anderson, 664 wickets. He's just going to keep bowling. The rain is coming down now, moving across the ground from right to left. Has Anderson been fuller of length, more attacking, or has it been pretty much the same old?
No, he's not been fuller of length. The CricViz data shows that his average bounce position in terms of where the ball lands on the pitch,
yes,
is his shortest in an English summer since 2014.
Ooh.
He's bowled more bouncers than in any season since 2015. So whether that's to do with that, the ball changing
after 40 overs, as we're talking about,
around about the sort of, well, in fact, considerably less good length balls than he's bowled in a couple of previous summers. But I mean, not a huge change really. But he's had a hugely successful summer, in particular in second innings, which is something we've been talking about a bit over the last previous year or so. That his second innings numbers had declined since 2018, but he's been very effective in the second innings this year, and also his opening spells of innings, in which over last summer and the Test winter in which he played in the Ashes, he'd only had one opening spell out of about 15 or 16 in which he'd taken wickets. That was against India at Headingley last year, and in this summer, almost every opening spell he's taken at least one wicket. So a couple of things that, slight, not necessarily concerning trends, but sort of notable trends compared with the early years of his career. That decline in second innings and fewer wickets and opening spells, those have been considerably rectified this summer.
So if there is a change, if anything, he's a little bit shorter, which traditionally you think was being a little bit more defensive with the new ball.
I think also, I mean, he's obviously a touch shorter than the rest of the bowling lineup. Hugh Robinson, Broad, is considerably taller than what he is, so they will have to go a touch fuller to bring the stumps into play. But I think something that Anderson has done well over his career is the line that he bowls. He's sitting on around an off stump, fourth stump line, and he's asking batsmen to play all the time. And I think you're always going to be in the game, hovering around at off-stump line, and I think that's something that he's done exceptionally well. And of course, you bowl one of that in-swingers, all of a sudden there's an element of doubt in the batsman's mind. What do I leave? Do I play? And you're constantly watching out for that one coming back to you. So I think from a skill level, he's phenomenal, and I think the control that he has together with the skill level, that is really what epitomizes, a James Anderson.
What's interesting to me is watching him bowl to left-handers. Now, you can tell me what he used to do, but essentially, Anderson now bowls away from the left-hander, whether from over the wicket or round the wicket, with the surprise ball being the one swinging back into the pads and maybe an LBW. Now, that is a change from a long time ago, decades ago when I played. If you were an away swing bowler bowling to a left-hander, your stock ball was swinging back into the pads looking for the LBW if it was swinging. I just wonder how, because you swung the ball both ways and you had that option, how did you bowl to left-handers? Did you always tend to go for the outside edge or for the pads?
No, I think for me, I wanted to bring all three modes of dismissal into play. So for me, I'd go over the wicket. If the ball was swinging, I knew LBW ball had been in the game.
It's a big thing.
And if the ball obviously just keeps on going with it, obviously with the line, you'd bring the outside edge into play. So for me, over the wicket was always a massive attribute to what I had.
If it was swinging to a left-hander.
Arsenal. So always number one. I mean, you want to start over if the ball's swinging, especially. I think if you can get the ball to swing away from the left-hander, then you should be able to get it swing it back. So, but I also think in the modern day, batsmen are starting to get a little bit more clever. They get onto off-stump, and that one, that's normally straight. They didn't get to work off the pads. But again, like I said, for me, it was trying to hover around that off-stump line, fourth-stump line, bringing off-stump LBW bowled into the game as well as the outside.
But Jimmy has changed in that he goes away from that left-hander.
And I've seen it a lot happening now over the last little while. I think even Brody, coming around the wicket, and that almost become their stock ball.
Yeah,
they almost completely forget about the one coming back at the left-hander. And to me, I mean, I always have a belief that the first 20 balls against any sort of batsman, I don't care who you are in the world, that's a window where you can really make inroads. So,
and you're more likely to go for the stumps.
Absolutely.
Then.
So, I mean, if you as a bowler say, you know what, I'm going to bowl 12 balls against this bloke, moving away from him, in that way he gets in, because he actually gets to see what the ball's doing. He gets a feel for, how the wicket plays, and I mean.
So it's a more conservative way of bowling to go for that outside edge, which is what Jimmy's done actually. And I think as Broad has almost lost his away swinger now, because he's bowled so much, especially to left-handers from around the wicket, and he does get the ball to swing away, from around the wicket. Tormented Warner in the Ashes in England doing that. But it's an interesting change, because even makes Vernon feel quite old, because I don't know whether bowling coaches say, well, you've got to push it away from the left-hander.
I suppose. I mean, you have certain left-handed batters which are very strong off the legs, and I don't mind if you're going to that ploy. And I think Dean Elgar is probably one. If you come in too straight at him, he's going to clip you all day. So you probably want to use that ploy of letting him leave a couple, let him watch a couple, getting him to do something which is not particularly strong at. But I think Dean Elgar also has a massive weak point of bowlers bowling over the wicket, taking the ball across him, because he keeps on pushing or prodding on wide outside the off stump. So again, I mean, it's probably what works for you, I suppose. But I'm quite amazed with that sort of ploy being taken by England, and especially up front. I think with the new ball, and I think that's probably where you're going with this, is you want to make sure that you give yourself the best opportunity of taking wickets with that new ball. So interesting ploy, but it's worked for them.
Right, it's raining here predictably, and according to my app, which has been spookily accurate since I had it recommended by Prakash Wakanka when England were playing India. It says that rain will continue for 49 minutes. It's very specific in these matters. Right. So 12:21, and then there'll be a tidy up. So I would strongly suspect that we'll have no play before lunch. The entirety of the square, which is basically from one side of the ground to the other, has now been covered in tarpaulins. And the bowlers' run-ups are now being covered as well, which is a fairly good indicator that the ground staff don't expect there to be any play anytime soon. The crowd have huddled for covers under the Galadari stand and the JM Finn stand away to my right, the Bedser stand. The pavilion will be teeming with damp members as we speak.
Play here at the moment because of rain, but of course if we do have play later on, we will bring it to you. And there is still some live cricket going on around the country, and you can follow that on the BBC Sport website and app as well. Just to tell you what did happen today, before we're going to leave you very shortly, but of course we'll come back to you if there is any action. We did manage to get a toss in. That was won by England, and Ben Stokes opted to have a bowl first. They have just one change to their side, of course, which is Harry Brook coming in to make a debut in place of the injured Johnny Bairstow, and he was handed his test cap by Joe Root. And South Africa, well, they announced 4 changes. So no Markram, no Van der Dussen, no Harmer and no Ngidi. That's Ryan Rickleton, Kai Zondo, Jan Mulder and Marco Jansen, who all come into the side for this third and deciding test match. So there's a lot of cricket we hope that will be played over the course of this match. But so far, day 1 has been blighted by rain. So we will let you know if there's any more news. But for now, we'll say bye-bye.